So here we are again. In the last video we made a common module which would then be a dependency for our two other news modules, and we added the code that was effectively common into that module. And at the moment, to date, what we've been doing is just pulling out node content from Drupal. But in this video, we'll look at seeing what happens if we want to pull in content from an external source. So in this case, we're going to look at an RSS feed, and this is a bit of an interesting one because it brings in a couple of different things. One of which is how we register a library to use. So I've been playing around with this, and one of the things we can say, if you want to, there is a kind of a structured way to do this in Drupal, and the idea is that you place, well, you need the contrib module called libraries, so you can basically just kind of go ahead and install that using Drush, or download it and unpack it yourself. But you need the libraries module. There it should show up somewhere. Where will libraries be? Other libraries. So basically, it gives a framework for managing that. And libraries should sit in the sites or libraries folder, which we can see here. So you can put your custom libraries, and they can be JavaScript libraries or PHP libraries, whatever, they go in there. You just need to make sure the libraries are suitable for use. So in this case, I'm going to try and load an RSS feed from the BBC News website. So I need an RSS reader for that, and I'm going to use the PHP RSS. Is it PHP RSS? It might be RSS PHP. RSS PHP library, which is this one. So I'm going to use this module because it's quick, because it's really light and simple and does what I need it to do here. So we're going to use that one. Now, if you to register that library, there are a couple of ways to do it. Drupal tells us there's a couple of ways of Drupal libraries API. Drupal gives us some information about how to do it, and one of them is to basically specify a libraries info hook. Another is to actually add an info file into the into the library itself, maybe. We're going to use the hook libraries info function to do this. So this basically means that our module, because it's dependent on a library, will register with Drupal the fact that this library should exist. I'm guessing it doesn't actually matter too much if multiple modules register the same library. I'm guessing that the libraries module is smart enough to kind of handle that. But it does mean that you can have the library there and multiple modules can then use it. The only thing you can't do, I believe, with this is you can't use multiple versions of the same library with a single Drupal instance. Simply because if you've got multiple versions of the same library, they might conflict. So if you've got multiple modules that require the same library, it needs to rely on the same version of the library. So let's add a folder in there, and we'll call it RSS_PHP, and we'll also copy in there's our RSS PHP folder, there it is, and we're going to copy in our RSS PHP file. So we now have that, we can see that's here. It's just a relatively simple class file. So now we need to register that. So in fact we can go to let's go to our common module. I'll show you some code that I prepared earlier. This is copied basically, pretty much straight from this page, and just kind of tweaked accordingly. So this is my news common, isn't it? in. Yeah, that's all we need. So this should now give us a library. So we can get rid of those comments because that was from the Drupal.org site. So we've registered the fact that we've got this library called RSS PHP. We've given it a name. The version callback I'm kind of ignoring for the moment, and we've told it there's one file that needs to be loaded. That's rssphp.php. So we should now be able to load that and use it. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to specify a feed URL. So we'll just comment out this code for the time being. So we've got a feed URL, and I'm just going to copy in this code. So actually all we need to do there is libraries load RSS PHP. So we're making sure the library is loaded. And we can see what happens. We can see what happens if we wonder if we can die there. Doesn't like that. Oh, no, so let's call it live. So we can see here, by loading the library, this gives us some information about that library, and we can see that it is loaded. The version doesn't really kind of have any information on because we've not really kind of allowed it to do that. But it also tells us it knows where the it knows where the library is stored. So I think we're doing okay there. So we'll get rid of that, and we'll get rid of that. So we're just creating a new instance of the class, which is here, class RSS PHP. New instance. We're loading that feed, and we're getting back the items as an array. Now we could try running that, but we're going to run into problems. Let's just return that for the moment, so we've got something being returned. So we've got a load of notices here, and we've also got no content being output. And the reason for that is that our content is not actually in the format we need it, because our display output is expecting stuff to look like nodes and have fields like nodes. So if I look at that, we can see here that we've got basically the RSS feed has returned an array, and within each array we've got an associative array that contains title, description, link, GUID, and publish date. We're kind of interested in the title, the description, and the GUID. But it's an associative array, and if we look back at our module, the display output is expecting things like NID, it's expecting a title, expecting these to be objects as well. So there's some little challenges there. So what we can do instead is just try and kind of create some, kind of common interface to this. So regardless of which way we were doing it, we would do it based on the same field. So if we create a class news item, and we just have a and within that we just assume we've got kind of fields for title and URL. So we could do we could do title, URL, and description. So from here, if we were to loop through those and say for each items as item, item GUID n URL title equals item title. Actually, let's have that as the description as well. And let's have that as description. Let's call that body just to make it. So we've got things title, body, and URL, and from there we're getting. So if we were doing that same thing up here, rather than returning, we could say items equals, and we could then go through here, and we could say take that and put that there. And we could take here that and put that there. So now if we could do it using our code here. Let's make this get. Let's make that function get my BBC News items. Let's do it that way. That's a bit better, isn't it? So now we've got something which let's say return items. Now if we go back to news items equals array, and we'll add that in there as well, and we'll say news items equals n. So that'll append our new object to our news items. We can return those. So now in theory that should work. We're going to take out that for the moment, which is leave that as it is for the moment. We come back to here. We should probably get an error because we need to update our display code. Yeah, but we've got a title coming through, which is good. So in here we actually want to say just body there, and we want to say I want to get rid of that and put URL likewise in here we want to get rid of that and put URL. Now we should be somewhere. My news module define property line 20. We might need to clear the cache on that. Oh no, we don't. There we go. So we've got, again, we're kind of coming back. We've got our items here. We've still got our list here. But let's see what happens if we change. If we now try and bring in our news content into here. Let's see if this works. Lo and behold, it does. So we've now got our BBC content coming in there. We've got links to the BBC articles. We could potentially go to we could change that back. We could go to our block module. We could change that to there. It's not going to work quite right here because this will now give us quite a long list because it's not being limited to 5. But you get the idea that we're starting to make kind of code that's kind of slightly kind of more reusable. Let's change that back. Put that in there. So that's about as far as we'll go there. So we've got the idea of kind of creating. We've almost you've got the idea of creating some kind of common way of kind of describing something, so that the view output effectively, the stuff which is rendering things, doesn't need to know where the content's coming from. It just needs to know that it's got a URL, a body, and a title. We've implemented within our common module, we've got something that can work on internal node items, and we've got something which can work on an external RSS feed. And in order to bring in that external RSS feed, we have used a library, a third-party library, which has nothing to do with Drupal. We've brought it in and we've managed to get it registered and hooked up to Drupal. So that's how you bring in a third-party library for your own custom module.